It's a little high. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Narayanam namaskritya Narang chaiva narottamam Devim saraswatim vyasam Tato Jayamadirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, We should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta prayesha bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyuttama shloke Bhakti bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Now, before we begin, just a public service announcement. For those of you who come on Sunday morning to see Maharaj's class, he won't be giving class till he returns from India, which will be in mid-April. What's the date again? April 17th. So just to let you know, I'll be giving his class until then. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 11th day of February 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in Canto 7, entitled, Prahlad instructs his demoniac schoolmates. Well, they're not demoniac yet. They may be sons of the demons. So I don't know. But you get the idea. And we are in Canto 7, Chapter 6, text number 5. Tato yateta kushalach chemaya bhavam ashitaha shariram paurusham yavam na vipadyeta pushkalam Tato yateta kushalach chemaya bhavamashitaha shariram paurusham yavam navapadhyeta pushkalam. Tato yateta kushalach chemaya bhavamashitaha shariram paurusham yavam Navapadnyeta pushkalam. Tato yateta kushalach chemaya bhavamashitaha shariram paurusham yavam navapadnyeta pushkalam. Go ahead. Tato yateta kushalach chemaya bhavamashitaha shariram paurusham yavam navapadnyeta pushkalam. Tato yateta kushalach chemaya bhavamashitaha shariram paurusham yavam navapadnyeta pushkalam. Tato yateta kushalach chemaya bhavamashitaha shariram paurusham yavam navapadnyeta pushkalam. Tato yateta kushalach chemaya bhavamashitaha shariram paurusham yavam navapadnyeta. Governor. Tato yateta kushalach chemaya bhavamashitaha shariram paurusham yavam navapadnyeta pushkalam. Chad, who won? Tato yate kushalach. Chemaya bhavamashitaha. Shadiram paurusham yavan. Navapadjeta pushkalam. Ladies. Tato yate kushalach. Chemaya bhavamashitaha. Shadiram paurusham yavan. Navapadjeta pushkalam. Tato yate kushalach. Chemaya bhavamashitaha. Shadiram paurusham yavan. Navapadjeta pushkalam. Anyone online?
Tato yateta kushala.
Tato yateta kushala.
Shemaya bhavam ashritaha.
Chemaya bhavamashitaha.
Shariram paurusham yavan.
Shadiram paurusham yavan.
Na vipadyeta pushkalam.
Navapadjeta pushkalam. Tataha. Therefore, yateta should endeavor. Kushalaha, an intelligent man interested in the ultimate goal of life. Chemaya, for the real benefit of life, or for liberation from material bondage. Bhavamashitaha, who is in material existence. Shariram, the body. Paurusham, human. Yavat, as long as. Na, not. Vipadyeta, fails. Pushkalam, stout and strong. Now before I read this translation, I'm going to read the previous one, since this one begins with the word therefore. Endeavors merely for sense gratification or material happiness through economic development are not to be performed, for they result only in a loss of time. Oh, sorry. Let me start that again. Endeavors merely for sense gratification or material happiness through economic development are not to be performed, for they result only in a loss of time and energy with no actual profit. If one's endeavors are directed toward Krishna consciousness, one can surely attain the spiritual platform of self-realization. There is no such benefit from engaging oneself in economic development. Translation to this text 5. Therefore, while in material existence, bhavam ashritaha, a person fully competent to distinguish wrong from right must endeavor to achieve the highest goal of life as long as the body is stout and strong and is not embarrassed by dwindling. Purport. As stated by Prahlad Maharaj at the beginning of this chapter, Ko Mara Acharet Pragyaha. The word pragya refers to one who is experienced and who can distinguish right from wrong. Such a person should not waste his energy and valuable human lifetime simply working like a cat or dog to develop his economic condition. For one word in this verse, there are two readings, bhavam ashrita and bhayam ashrita. So that word bhavam is sometimes understood to say bhayam. But accepting the meaning of either of them will bring one to the same conclusion. Bhayam ashritaha indicates that the materialistic way of life is always fearful, because at every step there is danger. Materialistic life is full of anxieties and fear, bhayam. Similarly, accepting the reading bhavam ashritaha, the word bhavam refers to unnecessary trouble and problems. For want of Krishna consciousness, one is put into bhavam, being perpetually embarrassed by birth, death, old age, and disease. Thus one is surely full of anxieties. Just a word in Prabhupada's usage. The word embarrassed has several meanings. The one here is not that, oh, what am I doing? Is my, slip showing or something? No. Rather, it means that one is compromised. One is negatively affected. That's what embarrassed means here. By birth, death, old age, disease. Human society should be divided into a social system of Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. But everyone can engage in devotional service. If one wants to live without devotional service, his status as a Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra certainly has no meaning. It is said, Stana Brashta Patantyadaha. Whether one is in a higher or lower division, one certainly falls down for want of Krishna consciousness. A sane man, therefore, is always fearful of falling from his position. This is a regulative principle. One should not fall from his exalted position. The highest goal of life can be achieved as long as one's body is stout and strong. We should therefore live in such a way that we keep ourselves always healthy and strong in mind and intelligence, so that we can distinguish the goal of life from a life full of problems. A thoughtful man must act in this way, learning to distinguish right from wrong, and thus attain the goal of life. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara. So there's one line here in this purport that Prabhupada quotes. Stanad brashta patantyadha. Now this is from a fairly often quoted verse from the 11th canto. And I'm just going to share that with you because it's very instructive. So it starts out, the previous verse, this is the teachings of the 9 Yogendras in the 2nd chapter, and it goes to the 3rd chapter also. I'm sorry, 4th chapter and 5th chapter. So the first verse, the previous verse goes, Mukhabahu Rupade Byak Purushasya Shamai Saha Chatvaro Yagire Varna Gunai Vipradaya Patak. Sri Chamasa said, he's one of the 9 Yogendras beginning his teaching here. Each of the 4 social orders headed by the Brahmins was born through different combinations of the modes of nature, from the face, arms, thighs, and feet of the Supreme Lord in his universal form. Thus the 4 spiritual orders were also generated. And then the verse Prabhupada refers to, if any members of the 4 Varnas and 4 ashrams fail to worship or intentionally disrespect the personality of Godhead, who is the source of their own creation, they will fall down from the position into a hellish state of life. So this is what is being referred to here in the purport. And basically, Prahlad Maharaj here is giving a very nice, what do you say, syllogism, argument for why one should take up Krishna consciousness as soon as possible. In other words, from childhood, if possible. Komara achere pragyo dharman bhagavatani ha durlabam manasham janjat tarapya dhrumartadam. This verse, or similar words and similar ideas are spoken elsewhere in Bhagavatam. So Komara achere pragyo. Prabhupada would often quote this verse when he's speaking about the Gurukul. Prabhupada put a lot of energy into the Gurukul in the 70s, beginning in Dallas and then Vrindavan. And he had high hopes that, this would be an exemplary school for training children in Krishna consciousness, and they would come out as Brahmins or qualified Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, or Shudras, all of whom have their place in the Varnashram, and all of whom are meant to be devotees. If they don't, if they're not devotees of Vishnu, or even, as it says here, deride him, then they fall from their position, then they become degraded, and in the next life, a hellish condition. So, why is it that the urgency is there? And Prahlad Maharaj has taught us in the last few verses that there's no point in striving for economic development or comfort in this world. Because, first of all, whatever happiness you do is already programmed in from your previous life. We're all destined to get a certain amount of material happiness, a certain amount of material distress. Of course, that's if we don't do anything. If we start taking up Krishna consciousness, then material happiness may be there, but it will be less important to us because we're experiencing spiritual happiness and spiritual pleasure. But in ordinary, starting from the point of the ordinary conditioned soul, and this comes out again as I referred to in the questions, because of previous activities in previous life, there's a certain program for this life. And we're due to experience so many things that are pleasant, that are unpleasant. We have a certain amount of material happiness too. So there's no point in trying to increase it, because it's already there. What you're doing is tragically wasting the human form of life, which is the only form where you can get the sva-artha, the actual goal of the spirit soul's life, and we escape from this round of birth and death, old age and disease, and go back to Godhead. This verse I keep quoting, but it keeps coming up, and it's pertinent always. Is it says. Now it's the beginning. The one about how the human form of life is very rare, but like all forms, is temporary. How's it start? Labdha. Thank you. Lodvasadula mamidam bahusambhavante manushim artadam anityam pihadira. So there's so much instruction in those two lines. So labdvasudurlabam idam. Sudurlabha means very difficult to get, rare, and Prabhupada would always give the example of the number of species there are, varieties of human beings, 8,400,000 compared to, 2 million animals and 11,100,000 plants and species. But aside from the species, just the living organisms. I mean, now we've passed the 8 billion mark on this earth, supposedly. But what is that compared to, just a lawn? There, as much every blade of grass is another spiritual spark, is another atma or jiva, just like us. They may be in a very degraded body, but how did they get that way? By not worshiping Krishna, by performing severe sinful activities. So this, to see the world in this way. Wherever you see a living being, you say, "Oh, this is just like me," and this living entity is now suffering in that body. I take my walk-up cast every day, and there's all this foliage on each side, and they're not doing anything. They're just there as long as they didn't get cut down, or frozen. I mean, are we in Winnipeg these days or what? I mean, this is so cold. It's definitely climate change is happening. But I'm just seeing, these, and sometimes I touch them or I chant Hare Krishna to the tree, something like that. This is Haridas Thakur's preaching, is that every living entity can be benefited by hearing the holy name. So it should be a very bracing and a sobering understanding that the clock is ticking, right? And in this world. This verse that Mahavishnu Maharaj, the elder, taught me many years ago here. No, actually, he taught me in Vrindavan. I told this story anyway. I'll tell it again. But I gave him a verse, and he pulled out a pad and kept notes, and then he gave me a verse. I didn't have anything to write with, but I learned it, put it into a little ditty. So it's one of the sobering verses. De hishti mangsuduride bimatam chijasva. Jaya sutaricha sadama matam vimuncha. Pushyanisham chanabanga tishtam. Jagadidam chanabanga tishtam. Vairagiraga rasikobhava bhakti nishtam. He said this from the Padma Purana. I haven't been able to locate it there yet, but it's quite a verse. So it's an injunction, it's a call. Just like Prahlad is calling on his classmates to take up Krishna consciousness. It says, don't love the body, just a bag of flesh and blood and bone. Give up your sense of ownership for wife and kids and home. At every moment, see that this world totters on destruction. Become detached and learn to love the Lord without obstruction. Now, I always point out when I chant this one, I just couldn't do proper justice to the last line of this verse. It says, Vairagya raga. Become attached to detachment. You see that? In other words, yes, I should be attracted by Raghunath Das Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, the 6 Goswamis. That should be inspiring to see how they gave up so much, especially those 3. Raghunath Das Goswami, Sanatana, and Rupa. They were both extremely wealthy. Rupa Goswami cashed out, after he met Lord Chaitanya and is on the way to Vrindavan. He had a whole boat full of gold, solid gold, that he had collected in his time working in the government. You know what that would be worth today? Billions and billions and billions of dollars. And he was completely detached. They had met Lord Chaitanya, and they were completely transformed. And all of that opulence and influence in aristocracy, they were the finance minister and the prime minister of the king. What could be more influential and lucrative than that? So it all became tuchyavat. Chakva tu namashesha mandalapati cheni sadat tuchyavat. Tuchavat means insignificant. Can you imagine? All that gold and everything. What can I do with it? So what he did it very wisely. Half of it, half for the benefit of the Brahmins and the Vaishnavas. A quarter of it for his relatives. Prabhupada says in the tape, because they expect something. They can cause a lot of, they get a lot. And a quarter of it he put in the hands of, and get this, a trustworthy grocer. Can you imagine? A grocer. Anyway, in Bengal. And for emergencies. And there was an emergency. Sanatan got arrested. Because they both gave up, they just didn't want to have anything to do with it anymore. So Rupa got ready to go to Vrindavan, and Sanatan, he was studying the Bhagavatam with a bunch of Brahmins, and he called in sick. He said, was that Dabakas or Sakramalik? I think Sakramalik. Anyway, they had different names. Oh, he's sick, he's holding in ill. So the king, who relied on him, prime minister, he went to see him, and he wasn't sick at all. He was studying Bhagavatam with learned Brahmins, at home. And so the king chastised him and said, "What are you doing? I need you to run the government so I can go and make war on our neighbors," basically, he said. So Sanatan said, "No, I'm sorry, I can't serve anymore." So he arrested him. So now he's in jail, and Rupa's gone, But he had access to that money, so he bribed the jailer. He praised, "You are a very pious Muslim, and I appeal to you. I want to go to Mecca." He was in the role of but you can help me get out. So he offered him very wisely, 6,000, 5,000 or 6,000 gold coins, and the jailer is saying, "Oh my God, what is the Qazi going to say? Or what is the Nawab going to say when he gets back? And you're not here, So he was hesitating. He said, "Okay, 10,000." That's quite a windfall for a jailer, a guard. So he says, "Well, what can I say when you're not there? Well, you tell the Nawab that I went to Pastul in the Ganges, or the river, and I jumped in and I drowned and can't find the body." So so everything was said. So he was able to get out of jail that way by praying. And it's a wonderful story of how he proceeded on his way to Varanasi, where he heard Lord Chaitanya was, and he met him there. And he received 2 months of instruction, which is the chapters, 3 or 4 chapters in the Madhya Lila. The most detailed. We always sing every day, right? Gaura Vani Pacharane, part of Prabhupada's Pranam mantra. So where are those Pacharane? Where are those Vanis? You find them in the Chaitanya Charitamrita mostly, the teachings. Some in Chaitanya Bhagavatam and other books, but CC is known for that, to give a most thorough explanation of the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, plus the Leela, we get, especially Antya Leela. So back to Prahlad. So he has now got his field of preaching, his friends, the teachers are at home at tiffin hour, they're taking their lunch, relaxing. And during that time, Prahlad is now beginning to inspire his classmates. And he's using the argument that's used also in the first canto. As I mentioned, this very idea is spoken by Narada Muni to Vyasadeva when he's encouraging him to write the Bhagavatam. And he says, Tasyaiva heto prayate kovito nalabhite yat brahmadama prayata talabhite dukkha padanyaka sukham kalena sarvata gabhira rangasa. Therefore, he's the same idea, is that one should strive. There's no point in striving for material things because it's very temporary and it just gets you more entangled. So he says, one should strive. What should one strive for? You're not going to lay back and do nothing. Tasyaiva heto prayateta means strive with all your energy and your intelligence. Prayateta kovido, one who is intelligent. That which you cannot attain, going up and down, even from Brahmaloka down to Patalaloka, you will not find the value of what you should strive for, the spiritual value. What about my maintenance? What about material things? You're plugged in. Just like he says, it's already there. You're not going to increase it or decrease it by anything. Talabhyate dukkha vadanyakak sukham. Just as dukkha, just as unpleasant things happen automatically, nobody but a madman or madwoman strives for those, but they happen, right? Similarly, your happiness, your sukha will also come automatically. So forget about that. Just strive for what you can attain, which is Krishna, self-realization, going back to Godhead. That is not a material thing. And so that's what Prahlad is describing here. Now this is interesting, therefore while in material existence, bhavamarshita, now Prabhupada calls attention to this. I was also reading about that in Vishwanath's commentary. The bhavamarshita and bhayamarshita. So bhava means to change. That's one of the meanings of bhava. And it's often come to mean the change of birth, old age, disease, and death. Birth, old age, disease, and death. That round and round. We've been going for millions and millions of births. We've forgotten them all. But that's the nature of everyone in this material world. You're created, every organism, every living being, and you find yourself in this body, and according to your karma in the body, you have a certain intelligence. Chances are, you know, because of the 8,400,000, that it'll be a body with very little intelligence, just enough to, you know, the super soul will be giving you what we call instinct, how to survive. The birds learn how to fly after a day or two, you know, and all of this stuff. And they have that, and that's all their intelligence. They can't understand any of this. They're on the wheel and they're not getting off until they come up to the human life. And then in human life, don't waste it like the animals. This is the thing. We have the animal history in our evolution of our consciousness, not the body, as we come up. So that memory is there, and if we don't have the proper association or knowledge, then we'll be controlled by that lower self, which is animalistic. Isn't it? What is that verse? Verses are leaving me. Dharma huitesham adhiko vishay ahara nidra bhayamayutanangcha samanyanetam pashapi samana. Dharma huitesham adhiko vishesho dharma nihina pashapi samana. Very important verse from the Hitopadesh. Now Hitopadesh means instructions for the benefit of everybody. Hita means welfare. So what this says is that we share these four basic things. You've heard this a million times, but it's important to remember. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Well, every organism does that in some kind of way, you see. Okay, so what's the difference between us and the animals? Dharma. Adhiko vishesha. This vishesha means the difference, is the important, essential difference. Without the Dharma, then we just polished animal life. Polished animal life. And that famous verse, Prabhupada often quotes this verse, but he doesn't say who spoke it. Yasyatma buddhi kurnabhet vidaptuke. You know who spoke it? Krishna, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. The sages had come to worship Krishna. You know, he's there, and all the residents of Vrindavan are there famously, you know, and so Vasudeva is there and everyone. And so, and all kinds of, you know, Narada Muni and all kinds of sages and everything are flying in from outer space because Krishna is here, you know. And so Vasudeva sees them, and he regards Krishna, you know, as his son, basically, you know. And he's offering their obeisance to them, and he asks them, please instruct me in the ultimate goal of life. And they say, are you kidding? Your son is Krishna. So they're surprised, you see. So Krishna gets into the mood, and this is spoken in the mood of an attached householder. Krishna's got 16,108 wives in the palaces, you know. So in that mood he said, oh, you know, yasyatma buddhi kurnabhet vidaptuke. So what this means is that one who regards this bag of mucus, bile, and air as himself, one who thinks thinks their possessions, swadi kalatradishu, the wife, etc. It's expanded on the wife, household, money, whole mishpaka, those who speak Yiddish. the extended family, you know, that's all mine as my responsibility, you know. That's another qualification, and he'll tell us what it is. And those who go to a place of pilgrimage just to take a bath, you know, and there's always some holy, you know, usually a river or something, rather than to inquire from the learned sages there, then such person is no better than an ass or a cow. Prabhupada's famous ass, jackass, you know, donkey. Or it can mean the donkeys that carry the food for the cows. Because I always wondered about this. Well, cows are like worshipable, right? And I mean, like cows are so. But anyway, the idea is not very intelligent. You've wasted your human form of life. Yes, Buddha. So much of the teaching, it keeps repeating. You know, the theme is there. Because the whole idea of the whole literature and the whole process and all the preaching and the traveling of the sannyasis is to gather up, you know, find those receptive ears and receptive minds that can receive the message and respond to it favorably, and those people will be saved from countless births of suffering in animal bodies and human bodies. This is the vision of the great souls. This is why Prabhupada risked his life when he came and afterward. You know, to keep preaching, traveling. As soon as he had ability to travel, he kept traveling. He could have stayed in any of his homes. You know, he had the LA there. He stayed for 8 months. Because he had everything there. It was nicely managed. The kirtan was going on. The books were going out. Devotees were being made. He didn't have to. He could dedicate his time to writing. You know, a very comfortable situation. So why leave? You know, and he was sending people to different places to preach. I think he sent one devotee to Germany, to open up Germany. You know, and all over the United States. So, but devotees got, you know, he would quote this often: "Familiarity breeds contempt." Well, it wasn't like contempt so much, but indifference, carelessness. And he noticed things. His spiritual master's picture was upside down on the altar. Famously, someone put salt in the Charanamrita. And then the thing is, they started, filtering his mail. Anyway, it was a whole thing. And then he called up from his trusted lieutenants, Bhagavan, and a few others, saying, "Can you get me out of here?" So that's when he went back to India, you know, and actually later on he said, "Oh, this is Krishna's plan, get him back to India," because India, you know, he was able to travel there and get a whole team, the White Elephant team, you know, and famously they had all these pandals, and it was very important. So if he had just sat in LA, it would have never happened. Anyway, but he was always, you know, quoting this verse in so many parts of the Bhagavatam. He said, understand, right there in the Bhagavad Gita, the same thing. Why is Arjuna troubled? Because he doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know what his real nature. Of course, he's covered. He's an eternal associate of Krishna. But he was covered by Maya so that he would identify with all of the relationships. You know, the bodily relationships that he had, and teaching relationships with his guru and all of these different things. But all of that pales to insignificance compared to his relationship with Krishna. The success of the life is to attune your activities and your desires with Krishna's. That's really what we're trying to do. So that when Krishna is pleased, you're pleased. And if I can do something to please Krishna, well, how do I know what to do? You can tell the spiritual master and the Shastra. You know, how many times? Manmana bhava bhakto. All right. Think of me and become my devotee. Well, how do I become my devotee? Well, you have to associate with the devotee. And there's this whole body of literature, Nectar of Devotion. Prabhupada struggled so hard to present all these things as a complete library that if you take it seriously and really understand it, you can purify your intelligence and actually act in such a way to go back to Godhead, which is the goal of life. So in today's world, I don't think anyone here has to be, you know, it's not a shock to anyone here, that things are changing very radically. I mean, just in terms of climate change, I can attest without a doubt the climate has changed here in San Diego radically. Anyone who's lived here for a while. I mean, you know, sub 50, you know, it sounds like, well, what's that? Come on, I'm coming down from New York, you know. Yeah, but here we never had that. I've been here since '89. It's almost going to be 35 years this year. And it used to be very moderate, even winter. And we'd have 1 or 2 serious rain showers in December and January, and that would be it, you know. Then we got an atmosphere, a river coming down and pouring and raining down for a whole week. And then it's cleared up, but it's freezing cold, you know. I'm doing my walk, and on the way back, this finger is out, being exposed. So I'm more like this. Seriously. It is cold out there. So what does that mean? I read this article about the melting of the Arctic ice. This is one of the reasons why things have changed so radically in the climate. Because, you know, jet stream that goes up there. Now, it's because of the heat. As soon as the Arctic ice melts, then instead of that white surface that ice reflecting the sun and keeping things cooler, it's just dark water absorbing it, and all the heat is going into the ocean, you know. And that heat, and it makes its way into the Pacific Ocean, and it's creating havoc, you know. And it keeps melting. This may be the next summer. There's no Arctic ice at all. So, you know, we're not going to get into a whole thing about climate change, but the point is that these are urgent things that it should inspire us to take Krishna consciousness really seriously. Because that first verse I quoted, Deheshta Mangsudure, and Pashyani Samchagaditam Chanabhangatishtam. See at every moment that this world totters on destruction. Of course, it's not going to blow up, you know, I mean, you know, for thousands, millions of years. But the point is, this Goldilocks, you know, atmosphere that we have, not too cold, not too hot, you know, you can, even if there's a certain limit, 120, 130, with the high humidity, you cannot survive. The human body is not made to survive. And we've already had, you know, quite a few deaths in places like India where it gets super hot. So that's going on, and the point is, who knows what's going to happen? How the situation? Here we are. We have a temple. We have the books. We have the programs. We have devotees. We have the chanting. We should take it very, very seriously, and make as much advancement as possible, because who knows? You know, and the geopolitical situation. I will not even get into it. But anyone who you know has a cell phone and sometimes checks the news says, really? You know, there's like two wars going on, genocides going on, and, you know, Bhayam Ashrita. Bhayam, that this is a world of fear, and it's a world of radical change. And on our own personal, you know, level, who knows, you know, another pandemic could come anytime. So all of this is very sobering, and it should inspire, you know, it should encourage us to make advancements so that we become, what is that? Vyavasyatmaka buddhi ekeha kudanandana. Vyavasyatmaka buddhi means the determination to practice Krishna consciousness without deviation. It's a mental, it's a very important platform. And then at the end of the 7th chapter, we get this Yesham Tvandakatam Papam Jananam Punya Karmanam Te Dvamna Mohe Nemakta Bhajateman Dridavata. Dridavata with a firm vow. To be free of sinful activities, to give up all sins, and also to be free of sinful reactions by performing, you know, Krishna consciousness. Punya karmanam, always doing, this case means bhakti and mukti sukriti, means Krishna conscious activities. Te dvandva mohanema, that such a person can give up the delusion of duality. The delusion of duality. This is good, this is bad, I should strive materially. This is good, this is bad. It's all bad. In fact, the things that really attract you, that you want to enjoy, those are the worst for you. There's one line in the Bhagavad Gita where Prabhupada says, the temporary happiness you experience from sense gratification is actually the worst enemy of the living entity. The worst enemy. Because it puts it throws water on your budding little fire of inquisitiveness about the ultimate goal of life beyond the senses. It says, oh yeah, I can enjoy this, I can enjoy that. That's why there's all these rules and regulations. It's not a slave mentality. This is for your liberation from slavery. We're slaves now. Kama dinang katina katita padita durnideshas. Tesham jata mayana kadona nattapano upashanti. Utsrijaitan atiyadupate sampratam labna buddhis. Tvamayatak shadunamabhayam mam nayung svatmadasi. Someone's cell phone upstairs? Next door? Who knows? Anyway. In how many ways have I sought to obey the seductive demands of my wicked desires? They've shown me no mercy. Yet on I've gone shamelessly trying to quench lust's unquenchable fires. But now I'm rejecting those hellish desires, for my higher intelligence now has awoken. O Krishna, O shelter of fearlessness, please let me serve you with faith that will never be broken. Prabhupada would quote this verse quite often. This was one of the first verses that Lord Chaitanya began his teachings to Sanatana Goswami. And it's good for all of us, because what's the saving grace? The intelligence getting awoken. That's why the association, the reading, the hearing, the chanting, the studying, the preaching, sharing the knowledge helps you to remember it more than anything. Prabhupada was so, he's practically like Satsu Maharaj, like addicted to writing. Prabhupada, that was like his, he wouldn't stop. All right, there's so many things to do. I'm going to get up at 12 o'clock at night, and everyone is sleeping, and I'll be out with some peace, and do some recording. It's a tremendous absorption, meditation, and it's the greatest service. You're writing the books, distributing the books, living by the books, and preaching on the basis of the books. That's why those who are have that as a lifestyle, the sannyasis and the book distributors and everything, often they become the strongest devotees because they're tasting the nectar of Krishna consciousness more than anything. And these wonderful stories Govardhan Prabhu regales us with, Vijayamani. And Vijay in his book of Sankirtan stories, it's fantastic. So how does that happen? Brigupati calls me up every so often, usually with questions about some passage in the book, and I got to talk to him for about 20 minutes a few days ago. And such a legendary figure. I knew him before he joined. He knew me before he joined, back in 71, 72. We went to the same yoga ashram. And, he's famous. Vijay was saying that he doesn't get sick. He does this rapid walk, he goes walking. So I asked about the walk. He said, no, I've stopped the walking because I found that at this age, he says, it's getting me too exhausted. But he still does hatha yoga, and that's in this passage we just read. And the purport. Don't neglect your health. Keep your, regulate your sleep and your diet, of course with prasadam. But don't eat too much, don't eat too little. It's right there in the Bhagavad Gita. Because this is our tool. This is our paraphernalia for serving Krishna, the body. And if we can keep it healthy for as long as possible, we can do more service and do more preaching. So that's part of bhakti. It's not to neglect the body, but to take as much as rest is needed, and as much prasadam is needed, and exercise. Used to be we got plenty of exercise with the Harinams, up and down. But if that's not happening, on a regular basis, then, in other words, the body should be maintained in a healthy condition, so we can nicely serve Krishna. That's also part of this. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that, and we're going to get regaled by these teachings of Prahlad Maharaj, which are really all very excellent and very pertinent for us. And I think that these also inspired Prabhupada with the Bhagavad Dharma discourse, because he talks about Bhagavad Dharma here, and that's, Prabhupada gave these lectures in New Vrindavan in the 70s. All right, any questions, comments, objections, emendations, revisions? Joseph? No. Okay. Then I'll give you another poem. You earned it. Well, let's say you didn't allay it by giving me a question, so now you're going to have to sit through this poem. So, Dehesti Mancha Uridam. So here's the song you did, Deva Bhavandam Vande. I have that in the poem. So I'll give you it real quick. So I edited it. I revised it. Krishna Bhavandam Vande. Krishna Bhavandam Vande Manmanasamata Kadama Payanita Patapankatama Kadande. That's the Sanskrit. And there's a series of songs in the Stavamala. This is one of them. And interestingly enough, Prabhupada translates this song in a purport in the second canto. I think it is. So, it means, Krishna, dearest Lord, I bow to you and then entreat, please place the bee of my restless mind in the honey of your lotus feet. Then he goes on, I'll just give you the English. Though even Brahma, deep in trance, cannot achieve his goal, a glimpse of your effulgent toenails, soothing to the soul. Because, O Lord, I've heard of your compassion's endless waves, that very vision is the only boon my poor heart craves. O Krishna, dearest Lord, I bow to you and then entreat, please place the bee of my restless mind in the honey of your lotus feet. O Madhava, despite great effort, I have not attained a drop of pure devotion. This has brought me endless pain. Yet though it seems impossible to ever fill this need, your monumental power gives me hope I shall succeed. O Krishna, dearest Lord, I bow to you and then entreat, please place the bee of my restless mind in the honey of your lotus feet. Today, oh my dearest Lord, please place my mind upon your feet. So I'll ever taste luscious nectar that I forget I'll taste the eternal nectar forever that defeats Ambrosia's pride. Sorry, I forgot the poem. But the idea is that it ends up with and interestingly enough, this is such a wonderful little detail about the songs of Rupa Goswami there. Every song ends on the last line with the word Sanatan in it. Now often it refers to, it could be Sanatan Kumara or the Eternal Lord, but he's also offering his respects to Sanatan Goswami, who we regarded as his guru, his instructing guru. So that's why we have Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate, and then the last line of that song, which is one that's in the songbook, is it Rupa Goswami. He mentioned Sanatan in there. It's very interesting. Okay, thank you very much for your attention. So I won't be giving class tomorrow morning, but I will be giving class tomorrow night. So you're all invited to Bhagavad Gita. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Oh yes, initiation, 10 o'clock. Bhakta Saul. Saul is only, about an hour and 18 minutes. No more Saul.